Hi everyone, welcome back to the Lightworkers. And this time we are here with Rudrāni. She is a practitioner of yoga. Of course, there are deeper aspects of yoga that she focuses on, which she'll talk about, meditation, and also various forms of healing. So let's start our show this time with Rudrāni. Hi Rudrāni, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me here, Anisha.
It's an honor. So, Rudrani, why don't you tell everyone about the various, healing practices that you have, and then also what got you interested in these really, deeper aspects of spirituality?
Okay. So, my journey into spirituality itself kind of started with a, a deep personal crisis that I went through. And that brought me to this place where I had to find answers for myself and I had to explore deeper as to how can I get out of the rut that I got myself stuck in. Okay, so having been in India at that time, yoga was something which was like very readily available. In fact, it was just about 50 meters away from home. And when I say yoga, like everybody else talks about it, it was like the physical practice. But from there on, I went a little bit deeper into the breathwork practices, and that's where the real healing started happening. Okay, the peace that one felt, the calmness of it, and then something that pervades you through for the rest of the day. And that was my starting point into the whole practice itself. And that from there, I was led to get deeper into Eastern philosophy and spiritual practices, both the Sankhya philosophy, yoga philosophy, Buddhism, whatever came out from India and East. And also, while I was doing those practices, I was working in the development sector, and that led me travel all over India, all the states in India, and also places like Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Indonesia, where I was actually doing the work. And there I could really see as to how people who are in the hinterland of our own country and these deeper places or in a deeper rural places in these countries, there is a thread that connects all of them. And that is their deep connection with nature, with the spirit of the place and stuff like that. So that further led me into kind of reading and understanding a bit more of native culture, stuff like Egyptian shamanism and things like that. So like it is like one step leading to the other, leading to the other. So I explored past life regression therapy as an experience for myself. Then I learned the modality. Yoga, I went deeper, becoming a certified yoga teacher, then a personal journey in doing an advanced practice, a master's in yoga, and from there on, doing a course in yoga therapy. Okay, so it's
Wow.
like to kind of understand this as not just the body, but that's just the entry point. What are we as a composite being, the body, mind, senses as a composite being? How things play out in our life? You know, all those things. So the modalities that I practice is basically deeper yoga practices towards healing, towards well-being, and then inner child work, EFT, past life regression therapy, family constellations, all the works. And
Wow.
something which is very kind of underlying everything is, like I said, the little wisdom that I had from the native people across all the countries that I worked in, that
Mm.
you need to be identified with your spirit. The strength of your spirit is really immeasurable. The resilience of it is really immeasurable. That inner journey is what really strengthens you. And I have been constantly looking at modalities which will take you on that circle back to your inner self, the deepest core of you. And for me, that is healing.
So when you talk about the native culture and nature and the spirit of the places that you've been to. And then, of course, then you're talking about the inner journey. Can you shed some light on how your own inner journey was, maybe how you found your core in the process? And you've been going through all of these modalities. So is there a particular one that you chose and you thought that this is it? And then, of course, the others just came about naturally.
Yeah, for me, from the beginning till this moment that I'm talking to you, the one constant has been yoga. Starting with the external aspect of it and then going deeper and deeper and deeper and understanding or breaking down things in the most simplest way, which can connect you with yourself. That is one constant in my life.
And so, if somebody comes to you in, say, a crisis mode, a client maybe, so how do you start to help them, or how do you offer, any sort of healing advice to them? Is it starting with yoga, or do you look at the situation and assert what's important, or how do you move forward?
Yeah. So, see, the yoga itself, the word itself means union or communion. Okay. Now, the question is union with what? Okay. So, as far as our own inner journeys are concerned, it is our soul or our essence or our spirit with which we can unite when we do the inner journey. Now, the next question, that is the first destination. You reach there or you have a glimpse of it. And then the next destination is, okay, what is the nature of this spirit? Or that you call yourself, that self word is the most important word. What is the nature? Is there a higher connection? Is there something beyond you from where it draws its nature? That takes you to the next level, which is connecting with the absolute. And you see that you are a piece of that, or you are an individualized version of that. Now, when you sense that in yourself, you also know that it pervades everything and everybody. Now, if I have sensed that and I have experienced that, and I'm getting deeper into the practice of holding on to that experience or sustaining that experience, that is something that I can share as an experience to somebody. Now, when a person comes to me with crisis, a person comes and sits across to me, not only because they feel that I can provide answers, maybe that's what they think, but they also come because they know that whatever they are going through can be a place where they get in and then they let go of the suffering. If there is no hope, nobody will come to me. For me, it is to work with that hope and show them the glimpse of whatever I have experienced with myself. Show them a glimpse of that and get them to believe that, have faith in the process so that that glimpse that they saw can be their sustained reality.
Mm. Then, Rudrani, in terms of where you're coming from, the experience that you've gained, what is suffering? Do you, what do you, what's your definition, or what do you think it is?
Okay. If we will come at it from the other side, okay? Now, instead of telling you what is suffering, let me tell you what is not suffering.
Mm-hmm.
The inner journey takes you to a point where you feel calm, peaceful, at one with the whole world. You feel friendly towards anyone who is coming to you or talking to you. You feel this all-encompassing compassion for anyone who comes to you or anyone you interact with, whoever is going through anything debilitating in their life. And you have this need for, or you have this journey on which your destination itself are cultivating virtues in life. And you do not interact with viciousness, even though you see a lot of that in the world. Okay.
Mm.
That is where you're going. So, and that, a concentrated version of that is the nature of your inner spirit. And anything that is not this is suffering.
Mm.
Okay. if you're not feeling compassion towards someone, what else could you be feeling? You could be feeling anger or jealousy at the person who is sitting in front of you. That can only lead to suffering. The other one suffers first, but then you also suffer in the long run. Okay, so defining what is the true nature of the self, or what is self, keeps you from suffering. Deviating from that takes you to suffering. So that is my understanding or
Wow,
experience of suffering.
powerful. You said that we do not interact with viciousness. How do you practice that? Because I feel like when you're saying viciousness, it's also anger, it's also jealousy, it's also so many other feelings, right? Or so, and this is what common people every day, this is our experience of life. So, do you want to just expand on that a little bit, just so that, people who don't understand get clarity?
Okay, so there is this very, very clear pathway which is given by Yoga Sutra, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. It is Yoga Sutra, chapter 1, shloka 33, which goes Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekshana Sukha Dukha Punya Punya Vishayana Bhavanat Chitta Prasadana. Okay, so it is like 4 reactions or 4 responses that one should practice towards 4 actions or 4 interactions that can happen towards you. Now, the last one is when, I said upeksha in connection with apunya. Apunya is those viciousness, which can be anything. Okay. And upeksha means guard yourself in your inert divine balance when such a thing is thrown at you. Not because you don't want to interact with the person, but that moment at which that person is going through that suffering or that viciousness will not be a right moment for interaction, because you do not bring about anything good at that moment. At that
Mm.
moment, hold your horses, be totally inert, don't react. And then once they are able to let go of that intensity of negativity, that's when you reach out with the other good 3 practices, which is amity, kindness, and fulfillment towards the other person.
Mm. Okay. And so, in that moment when you're saying you're guarding yourself, suppose you are interacting with a friend, so do you not communicate? Or
No, we can communicate, but the communication is not in reaction to whatever got thrown, which comes
okay,
under
okay.
the category of apunya, of viciousness. Okay, the
Mm-hmm. So
communication can
mm,
always be, you don't have to voice it, but it can always be, I sense what you are going through. I will let
mm,
this moment pass, and then we are at a place where we can interact meaningfully, sensibly. We will keep the interaction for that moment. That's also being respectful to what they are going through at that time.
yes, that makes sense. Hmm. So then, moving on, Rudhrani, what role does God or the higher power play in your life? Or do you believe in it, or do you have a practice?
Yeah, I do have a practice. And see, for me, most of these answers come from the scriptures, from the yogic texts.
Yes.
The the whole understanding of higher power or God for me is that, like I said, you are a piece of that. The individual, the jiva, the jivatma is a piece of the paramatma, okay, of the higher one. So if you have understood your own innate highest nature, you have understood God. So then the whole idea is, okay, why do we behave the other way? Why do I get angry? Why do I get, why do I get into this negativity? So to know that, okay, that is my higher nature, but then there's also stuff happening in the world, and sometimes I get entangled.
Mm,
Okay, so the more and more I practice, the more and more I have awareness of how I am responding or reacting to this various stimuli that is being thrown at me. And more trying to be sustained in that higher nature.
mm,
And And the higher being or God would be someone who is always in that highest nature.
Right.
Okay, so the simple knowledge that I am, in essence, a piece of that is like hugely comforting for me.
Mm. And I think people forget or don't want to understand maybe the importance of it, because I think especially in India, and I guess in different cultures and different religions, they talk about, you being a part of God, but I don't think we understand that connection. So what does it really mean in essence, that, like when you said it gives you that calmness, so how? Because you feel like you're taken care of, or you feel like what happens? What's the process in your mind? What's going on?
Okay, so see, if you ask me the process in my mind or what's going on, I have like a practice pathway that I follow. Okay,
Hmm.
now I can probably better answer that question and say, okay, how do I help someone who is an absolute atheist or who does not
Hmm.
believe in this thing to understand what it is that I'm talking about?
Yes.
Now, like for instance, a client who walks into me and they are there because they are experiencing something which they want to let go of, or they are experiencing a fate which they feel that they need to go past for them to be full. Okay. Now,
Mm.
you will not have an aspiration to go past your suffering if you have not known that fullness for which you are aspiring. Okay.
Mm.
So where does fullness come from in our day-to-day life? It comes from probably when you are the most creative, for the ones who claim to be creative. So creativity, when expressed, gives you that fullness. Then the ones who are achievers or who believe in those success factors, which is defined by the world, when you are successful or when you have claimed that peak is when you have felt that fullness. Take them to that place of fullness, the last time that they have experienced it, and take them deeper into the experience. And you tell them that through the therapy, that is the end game that you are reaching. And
Mm.
if, Anisha, you are sitting in front of me, take you on a guided journey into meeting Anisha Plus, which is your spirit in action. Okay.
Mm.
And you say, God is nothing but a sustained feeling or a sustained connection with Anisha Plus.
Mm.
Okay. And that is my experience of divinity.
Mm. Divine. Yeah. And have you seen people getting connected and feeling that presence, or feeling that fulfilled?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hmm. So then, how important is faith for you in this whole process, or generally in a day-to-day, life experience?
Faith in that highest essence is important for me, because if I do not hold on to that, or if I'm not connected to that, then I'm going to fall for everything that is happening around in the world, right? I had to
Mm-hmm.
stand for something. So once I have that connection, it's very easy to stand for that. And that is my faith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and
And
when you have that kind of faith, you live with such an acute or such a focused awareness of yourself in the world, that everything that you do, every interaction, every word that you put out, you are careful that you are that connection. You do not let go of that. There's no deviation happening as much as possible.
mm, wow, those are deep commitments that a person has, Rudhrani, when, like you're saying, remembering that and then living, like that. So, is there a vigorous training or practice that you went through? Because I know that you did master's in yoga, and you said that you were practicing for many like days and nights even. So,
Yeah.
how was that experience? You want to talk about that, like, what you went through your training?
Yeah. So when I did my master's program, and then I stayed back for a couple of years at the place as a volunteer, not because of the service itself, but because of the depth of the practice. Because every
Mm,
day spent at that place was giving me another dose of this strength and this resilience that comes from the practice. Okay, so an ideal day would start at 6 a.m. with meditation, and then chants and learning the scriptures, learning Sanskrit, learning the philosophies, the Eastern philosophies, and all those things. It's this learning process, which is which is an ongoing thing, and it ends with another round of meditation and the chants and listening to commentaries and things like that by around 10 in the night. So
Wow.
okay, so right from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m., everything that you do is as per these practices. And you experience deviations because you are living with people. So it is like a microcosm of the universe that you're creating there, because 25 people are residing at that place. And the more you practice, you also learn that it is difficult to hold on to this practice because you are on an inner journey and several things come up. So we have mentors and teachers to whom you can go and speak and get answers and, take your practice forward.
Right.
And we have like proper nice Excel sheets where we say, okay, this is, what I spoke today. This is what I did today. Did I experience greed? Did I experience gluttony? Did I, did I experience anger? And what is this awareness cultivation? How do I become more and more aware of what I am putting out? Because because you are interacting with the world, and whatever you put out, if it is a deviation from the journey that you are having within, it becomes a little more effort there to come back. Right. So it's a practice of deep awareness, and it's a practice that is day long. And any work that we used to do there was always, we were trained to work with an attitude of service. Okay, so cooking, like there are a couple of people cooking for these 25 people. So you just make sure that 4 hours you are cooking, and then you are absolutely quiet and you're putting all your efforts into what you are doing. Similarly, the entire place was maintained by these 25 people. It was 250 acres of land, gardening and vegetable patches and, stuff like that. It all used to be done by these 25 people. Okay, so it's like that is the high point of my spiritual path.
And then you talked about, various scriptures and of course reading, learning so much. So is there a particular story or a particular sutra or something that really, moved you, and that was like the turning point and you realized that, this is like divine information? Not just one, maybe it could have been many, but something that you really resonate with.
Yeah, so when it comes to scriptures, having trained in this particular modality or the lineage of yoga, the what we all fall back are like two scriptures in particular, which is Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, and then the second one is the Bhagavad Gita, of course, with various commentaries. So the one that I love the most is Patanjali's Yoga Sutra commentary by Swami Hariharananda Aranya. Okay, so that's like he's taken the sutra and he has transliterated it. He has translated it for you. And then there is the commentary by Vyasa, which itself is like some 2000 years old. And that commentary is further explained by this Swami. He's no more. He was like, this book itself, like what I'm talking to you about, is more than 100 years old. Okay, so each of this is explained, and it is converted into a practice pathway that, if you are, this is the sutra, this is how you practice it, and these are the experiences that you have, these are the benefits that you can cultivate, and stuff like that. So
Wow.
that one book. And when it comes to Bhagavad Gita, the commentary that stays with me is by Swami Chinmayananda.
And anything particular in the Bhagavad Gita as well, because it's
The
vast,
Bhagavad
right?
Gita is like it is vast, and then in the work that I'm currently doing, the chapter in Bhagavad Gita that really has like if I could use the word, broken the code for me, like
Wow.
is the chapter 13, which is about fields. It is a chapter on Kshetra Jnana. Okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
about fields, and it talks about, like, in family
Sorry,
constellation, for a
you said
field,
fates,
field.
fields. Mm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it talks about, like, in the family constellation thing, we take the family as a field, the family system as a field. It talks about various fields and how they interact with each other. Okay,
Mm.
so for me, how it enriched my practice is that when we are learning systemic healing or family constellation, we just learn that, okay, these are the four themes that you look at. And there is an approach which is like a very focused, it is like with blinkers. And here the Gita opens it up for you, saying that
Mm.
the eyes have a field, it's called the visual field. Okay. And that is how you interact. And then
Mm.
you have time itself sets a field. So there are these various fields which interact, and in all these changing things, these are ever changing, there is one constant, and that is your individual soul. And
Mm.
you need to be connected at the individual soul level to the absolute soul. And if you understand this connection, then you can decide how do you want to interact with these fields. Okay. And how that changed for me, how that changed perspective of healing for me is when you understand what is constant and what is changing,
Mm.
do the systemic work, do the healing work, and then at the end of it, show them what they are, that their individual power. Okay.
Right.
So
Mm.
bring them back to connecting with their own spirit. And once you do the systemic movement of receiving from your parents, your grandparents, and everything, then comes you, your life force. After
Mm.
receiving, you anchor yourself in your individual life force, and then you flow forward. You do all the giving and receiving that you are to do in the world, not only because you have found balance in the system, but you have
Mm.
also found connection with your own higher power because you are connected with your life force.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. So, do you have maybe a few practices for people out there, general practices which you've noticed, help people anchor again and like come back to who they are? Simple things that you might have seen, that people can probably learn from, you.
Yeah. Well, not learn from me, from the
Yes,
scriptures.
from your knowledge, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Some of the simple practices are knowing that a heart center meditation
Mm.
will open up the love that is blocked in you.
Mm.
Knowing that eyebrows, third eye center meditation, or the eyebrow center meditation, as we call it, can open up wisdom avenues for you.
Mm.
Okay. And if you experience one of these or both of these, either of these or both of these, you are pretty much at a place where you can start flowing.
Nice.
Okay.
Mm.
So love is nourishment, and wisdom is what is going to take you forward. So rooted, centered, then you can experience the flow in you. The
Mm.
blockages start melting. One of these
Mm-hmm.
is good enough. That's where it begins. Okay. And the second important thing is your breath.
Mm.
Breath is a beautiful connector. You can cut across your body, your mind, your senses, everything with your breath. You just need to charge your breath with positivity. So I generally, for every client that I have worked with, I have done breath work.
Mm.
And with proper guidance or proper visualization that they can do, breath work itself is like extremely powerful to take them within.
Mm. Just some important information about the breath, maybe, because it is so, we all breathe, right? And it's like s- we are so disconnected with it that I feel like a lot of us are missing out on this powerful power that all of us, possess. So, do you want to talk a little bit about breath work maybe, and how important it is, or why is it important?
Yeah. Okay. So a client who comes to me, let's say, who feel who feels anxiety. Anxiety itself is a stuckness that you feel at various parts of the body, and it just shows up as, you cannot breathe, or whatever it is. And if you are able to kind of place a finger on, as a therapist, as to where is this anxiety coming from in the system, or in their childhood, or wherever it is coming from, a simple visualization with breath work, and then with count, gently, slowly, you kind of start harmonizing their breath, and you are verbally giving them the cue to harmonize the breath, like the in breath and the out breath, almost for an equal duration. And once this deep, long harmonization takes place of the breath, then you can do an interoception practice as to, okay, now you sense that probably it is coming from a mother bond issue for the
Mm.
client. You can use the breath to sense as to what are the energy blocks there that they are feeling with the mother. Okay, like
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning of our conversation, I had talked about breathing. Are you feeling that ease in breathing? Is it long enough? Is it deep enough? Is it fulfilling enough? And are you kind of putting effort there, or is it just coming easily to you? And
Mm-hmm.
you do that interoception, help them go deeper and find where the breath is taking them to, or the connections that the breath is establishing, and
Mm.
then help them break through those barriers that they are feeling within, and harmonize that breath. And by the time you are done a 45 minutes session, you see that the anxiety is slowly melting. That is one way in which, without saying that I'm going to teach you to breathe, I take them to a deeper breathing practice. And then I just give a couple of breathing rituals so that they can go back and practice. And every session, this then, in like whatever I did in 45 minutes in the first session, can be accomplished in 10 minutes in the next session, because you just have to
Wow.
take them through that ritual of breathing. That is
Mm-hmm.
one place where I use breath. And the second place where you can find breathing, proper breathing or harmonized breathing, really important, is we store these experiences, especially the negative ones, at various places in our body. With
Mm.
the breath itself and a bit of visualization, you can actually just go in and break those things open. And when you are like for instance, when I am connecting you to your higher self, we are just
Mm-hmm.
using the breath for establishing that connection. Once
Right.
you reach that higher self, we sense into the body to see where is it that you are feeling that all that goodness stored. And just taking them in, saying that with your breath, you can connect to that place. And with the same connection, you can go to the other place where you feel anxiety, where you feel tightness, and
Mm-hmm.
you break through it. Okay, so using various gradients of breathing that way
Mm-hmm.
helps one go deeper and deeper. There are so many of breathing practices, like heating practice, cooling practice, harmonizing practice,
Mm.
victorious practice, and you charge it with all these goodnesses that you want to feel.
Wow. And then, have you seen people come to you who do not believe in this or who do not know about this, generally healing, and then healing working for them as well? Or do they need to, believe in it and have faith and all of that? How does it work?
No, nobody needs to have faith, but then they need to kind of believe in themselves that
Mm.
it will work. More than faith, I would say hope is what would be the operating word here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And see, people will come to you saying that I'm in a lot of pain, whether it is emotional, whether it's mental, whether it's physical.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like the common thing that people come to you with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that hope, or that belief that they can get better, that is important.
Okay.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
that's good enough for one to work with. And
Okay.
even the ones who are utterly hopeless, if you are able to kind of show them
Mm-hmm.
that there is the possibility of that feeling good. That feeling good
Mm-hmm.
is enough for you to lead them onto the path.
Okay. And then can everyone who comes to you be helped?
Everyone can be helped, provided they have that thing that I spoke about, that hope,
Mm,
or they themselves need to believe that they
mm.
can be helped,
Helped.
and that's it. Yeah.
So have you had anybody come who's particularly difficult, but then, it turned out to be a great success story?
So there are many people who come saying, I'm not religious, which is fine. And then you
Mm,
just go ahead and do the work with them. But the
mm,
ones who come and say that I'm not religious, but then I'm not spiritual also, I do not believe in any kind of goodness, well, I do not work with them.
mm, mm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
particularly difficult, not clients with particularly difficult situations have come, or difficult
Mm,
stories have. And no, we have really found success in
mm,
whatever degrees or grades there. But there are people who come who are like totally so identified with the thing that they call fate, that you cannot move past that. But then they
mm,
fall off right within the couple of first sessions. Okay, the
mm.
identification is so strong that they do not will to make that movement.
Wow. This is a great segue to another question of what is fate, Rudrāni, according to you? And then can it be changed? And
Fate.
fate.
Hmm. It can be changed. The whole work is about changing fate, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be changed. What is fate? Fate is ignorance. Fate is not knowing what you are.
Mm,
And what are you? You are this deeply powerful spirit. Everything else is just vestments that you are having, including your own body.
mm,
Okay. And once you are connected with your own spirit,
mm-hmm.
then fate, which was your ignorance, can be changed. Why is it an ignorance? Because look at your family system. When you
Mm-hmm.
do the work that we are doing this whole transaction, reversal of transaction. You're returning fate, and
Mm-hmm.
then you are receiving back what you lost in that fate transaction that happened in your childhood. And what are you
Mm,
receiving back? Your innocence, your power, and the connection with your spirit is what you're receiving back. With that, you say, now that I have all this, I say yes to my life force.
mm.
Okay, so the whole story that you had about fate, the two things that are happening here, you
Changed.
realize that it is changed, it is gone. The story was not yours. The second thing is also that the story of suffering, or this fate that you were identified with the person that you were identified with, you are standing so close to them in this story of suffering. The bond itself is suffering, that you're not seeing that person completely, fully. Now,
Oh.
take a step away from them. You stand in your own power and you look at the same person. Of course, you see the sorry story that you were carrying, but you also see strength, you see resilience, you see enterprise, you see love, you see everything else that that person was. And then you feel that, okay, so this is the complete picture. If that is
Mm,
the complete picture, suffering is not really all that I was making out to be all this while. I also have a complete picture. And all of these things together, that completes me.
and we can all be complete pictures, right? We're all complete pictures, which we
Yes.
just
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
put together to see. Mm,
Yeah. So that, now going back to the question that you asked earlier, there is this little shloka which says, I think it is from one of the Upanishads. Okay. It says, Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. It means that is complete. This is complete. And from completeness is born. And from completeness, you take away completeness, what is left is equally complete. Okay, so
wow.
Okay, so this is a story of completeness. Everybody is complete in themselves. And if you are
Mm.
able to, I am able to look at you and say that, okay, that is complete, then I'm celebrating you. And the more I'm celebrating you, that will define how I'm going to treat you or work with you. And
Mm.
if I'm going to celebrate your completeness, I will receive that from you. There is no way that you are going to throw something else at me.
Wow. My eyes are welling up just like listening to this. Yes. So, does that mean that energetically speaking, when we look at someone as complete, that itself is healing? Because,
Yeah,
yeah, because the fact that we are seeing or looking at the broken part which the person comes with is that we're giving more energy to that, right? But when we're looking at the complete, we are moving from here to there. Mm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, then I had you just actually recited the shloka. I was going to say, how did you get into learning, the pronunciation? Did you always learn it as a kid, or like, the Sanskrit
Yeah.
actual shloka? How did you get into that and learn it so well?
So there are two places in my life where I learned Sanskrit. Like fifth standard onwards, I learned Sanskrit in school for some 4 5 years. So the basics of it was always in place. And then while I was staying at the yoga ashram for 2 years, we learned something called the Vedic Sanskrit, which
Mm,
is Sanskrit, which is extensively the kind of Sanskrit which is extensively used in the scriptures.
mm,
And then, like I said, we used to chant. So we had this chanting exercises, which would be for hours sometimes. We have had days when we just sit and we go do the entire Bhagavad Gita chanting in one sitting.
wow. How long was that?
It takes about 3.5 hours to do that.
Okay. Wow.
Okay,
Mm,
so that's the training that I have received in Sanskrit itself. And then there are various scriptures that are brought in and then we chant. So it was like on Monday, it was all Shivji chants that we used to do. Tuesday
mm,
was for Devi. Then we also
right.
do things like the Mahishasuramardini and the Lalita Sahasranama in the evening on Tuesdays. Then
Mm-hmm.
Wednesdays used to be all Krishna chants. Thursdays used to be the Guru chants and again Shivji chants. Then
Mm-hmm.
days we used to go back to doing the Devi chant. So these days were fixed, and it was like tremendous amount of learning.
Mm, I
And
can imagine. Mm,
that really helped us. And it's I'm an Indian, so I do
yeah.
not have much to kind of pat myself on the back because we speak these languages and all. There were people, Westerners, foreigners who used to
Yeah.
write Sanskrit, speak Sanskrit, and do these chants.
Mm. So I remember you mentioned the Yoga Sutra being transliterated, and then, for people to maybe understand in English or another language, right? But is there a particular value that a person gets if they recite something in Sanskrit? Is there an energy to it? How does that work? Like, how does chanting work in that sense? Because I feel like, we've seen pundits in India, like, they recite that way. A lot of people also, and they play it on YouTube. So is there an energy being emanated when this happens?
Yeah, these are, the belief is that there are energy points inside our body, the whole nadi system. If you go into the understanding yoga, the chakras, the nadis, the granthis, there are
Mm-hmm.
energy vortices, energy portals, and energy junctions inside our body. And
Mm,
these chants directly kind of touch or kind of come into union with you at those energy points. So it it opens up energy inside of you. That's one part of it. Second part of it is that there are various mantras that we are initiated into. So there are open mantras and locked mantras. So the locked mantras we get initiated into, and then only we chant this. So most of us who have gone through this process of initiation, for the rest of our lives, we have a mantra which we chant. Okay.
Oh,
And
wow.
so most of these beautiful chants and things that you hear on YouTube are those open mantras which are chanted, and it has a calming, peaceful effect on us because we
Mm.
energetically connect to that.
Hmm. And then I think earlier you mentioned something about a client being, neither religious nor spiritual. So what is the difference between, being spiritual and religious, and what is being spiritual in that sense, according to you?
See, being religious is like an external, an exoteric practice. You have pictures, you have idols, or like in some religion, it is another person, like a personified version of divinity that you're worshiping. That
Mm.
is religion. It's all external. And then religion also gets into this whole thing of creating this brick and mortar structures, institutionalizing things. Okay, being spiritual is just what it sounds. The spirit inside you. The journey is inward. You're not going out to find God. You are finding communion with God within you. And
Mm.
if you peel away the layers of religion, that is how most religions have started before they
Mm.
started adding on this flab around it. Okay.
Mm.
So if you read most of the religious, like the few that I have read, all of them lead you to this deeper spirituality. But when we are only focused on the exoterics of it, we do not really access the esoterics. That's what happens there. So to put
Mm.
simply, externalizing faith is religion, internalizing practices is spirituality. The
Mm.
goodness in you connecting with the goodness in me is spirituality. But if I'm going
Mm.
to ask you, Anisha, what religion do you follow? I'm focusing on what separates us. I'm not focusing on what connects us.
Mm. Because the inner light that we all have is part of that one thing which we are all connected to.
Yeah.
So that's how we are all okay. And then Rudani, when you talked about suffering earlier, what it is, do you feel, and then you talked about being complete. So the two poles, or two opposites, right? We see people being more, for the lack of a better word, addicted to suffering than to feel that, they are complete. So how do you work with that duality? And I guess as healers, we all work with that. But like, what is your message, or what do you feel is going on, just with your knowledge of various systems in place, that we are so focused on the suffering rather than, the divine oneness?
I would say from not from really any spiritual practice here, but more from my own practices and experience, that the one thing that can change it is the practice of contentment and gratitude. So
Mm.
the simple thing is contentment begets more contentment. Be content,
Mm.
you will open up space for more contentment to come in. That is the story of abundance. Whereas what happens in the world is you are always told that you're not enough. This is not enough. This brand is not enough. This body is not enough. This complexion is not enough. It's a story of not enoughness. It's a story of being discontent. And that is suffering.
Mhm.
You practice a little contentment today, saying that I am good the way I am. And
Mm.
what I have is enough. And for me, letting go of suffering begins there.
Wow.
And like
It
I said,
does.
also, yeah, and for me, it's also like I said, the client comes to me. The first thing is, can I show this person that there's a higher variant of them, a higher version of them hidden somewhere inside? Can I pull
Mm.
that out and show it to them saying, hey, you connected with this for a moment. And the end game of this therapy is, or end game of this healing journey is, you cement that connection and you own it. And that remains with you, and you can access it whenever you want to. And that simple connection itself is the connection of contentment within you.
And can anyone access this feeling of being content? Because that's really tough nowadays.
So you do not have to access it at that macro level, but just take up one thing at a time and say things even as simple or as mundane as, hey, my hair is beautiful. My skin today is beautiful. And look at, look in the mirror. First thing that stares back at you is the dullness or the hangover from the previous night. But stand there, look at it and say, hey, you're beautiful. And you see how the change impacts you, impacts the one in the mirror. And, you take it forward from there, that those little practices of contentment. I totally agree with you when you say that it's impossible or it's impractical, because the world does not allow you that practice. The moment you have to understand this, the moment you take that practice or you embody that practice or you kind of adopt that practice, the world loses its power on you. You have become more powerful than everything that is being thrown at you. Why would it be allowed? You tell me that.
Exactly. Yeah. So are you
I'm
seeing that? Yeah.
things I'm alone, I'm content in that. I'm going to read a book. Now the world is calling out to you, go to the mall. But then how do I go out to the mall? I'm alone today. So then the thing of loneliness comes in, and that's the stuff. So it has to
Exactly.
be a very, very aware practice that, I'm going to work with this contentment, and that's going to bring in more.
So it can start with a simple thing, and then it could be a struggle with the constant bombardment, but you have to stay with it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So is that where you started? Like, was it tough for you in this journey, being
Of course it was.
content
Of
with
course it
where
was
you
tough.
are?
It's never easy, because there is this so many hooks that come at you from all over. But like I said, when you stay with it for a few moments at a time, you experience it, and then you realize that, hey, this is better than that.
Wow. I just remembered you talked about working in the development sector. So just going back there for like just one small question. Do you see any parallels in the healing world and the development world, or do you feel like it was very easy for you to move from there and slide into, or are you still working with the development sector?
I don't now, because I'm kind of now full-time working in this. But there was a time when I used to do both. But my pull then became like very evident towards this work.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And the parallel between the two work is we are working with the people who are suffering there also.
Yeah.
And their empowerment might be at a community level or at a financial level, where those are those tangible stuff which can be counted, which can be monitored, which can be accounted for. But the story is the same, it's of empowerment.
Yes,
And
yes.
there you are helping them with resilience, and as a community or as people, as families. Here you are find that you move the shaft a bit, and you will find the resilience and the strength within you.
Yes.
when
Yeah.
when you're doing the healing journey, that's what, when you say light worker, that's what it means to me. It is not that, you know I'm not really giving anything to anybody here. I'm just letting them find their own light, the same way I found mine.
Yeah. I have a question around abundance because you just mentioned that around contentment and gratitude. But before that, there is another question about you said that for different days of the week, you did different mantras for different deities. Is there a particular god or deity that you really connect with? And do you have like a story around that? Anything like, that sort of connects you and that people can also relate to?
Yes, so there's a story around it, but that's like deeply deeply personal. So, but then the deity that I connect with at a very intimate level is Lord Shiva. And
Mm.
the though people find it, sometimes people find it surprising as to, that's not really about abundance. That's really not about nurturing. So where's the traction there? For me, it is
Right.
about dissolution of letting go, dissolve, let go of anything and everything that does not serve your higher purpose.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. And it's also the story of healing, because
Mm.
most of the stuff that we need to heal from are the stuff that we need to let go.
Mm.
Okay, so for me, finding or being found by Lord Shiva was the same day that I really started out on sharing this journey with others.
Mm. Wow, it's so profound. The process of healing is about a lot of things that we need to let go of. Can you go a little deeper into that? Like, what do you mean?
Like you take an example of the whole systemic practice itself that we do, the family system dynamics. I am holding on to the need for my mother that I had when I was 5 years old, because she was either emotionally absent, or she was so wrapped up in herself, or there was this bigger pull that was happening from the in-laws side, or whatever it is. The suffering that I'm having today as the 40-year-old is a bigger version of that little suffering that I had as a child, where I
Yeah.
needed my mother and she was not there. That has now snowballed into this big thing that I'm holding on to now. So that's that simple understanding that I can let go of that from childhood for
Mm.
two reasons. One, I am going to be the nurturer of that child. I am going to reparent that child. And two, I'm an adult today. Why am I holding on to that suffering? I need to hold on to the beautiful adulthood that I have, where I can take decisions, where I do not really need that kind of nurturing or anything from anybody. So
Mm.
it's the journey of letting go, and
Wow.
say that, and what did I lose when I held on to that need for my mother? What did I lose? There was a completeness within me as a child. There was this totally unified oneness in me which I had to let go, and I let a broken piece of a relationship sit there. So
Mm.
you have to let go of that need. You do not have that need as an adult, but we grew with that. We grew in size, we grew in age, and that need sat there, and that also grew. Okay, so
Yes.
it's just that letting go. Similarly, you have an identified fate. Let's say you with your grandmother. Now the letting go is that grandmother, it's your fate.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I showed my love and loyalty. I thought I could partake in your fate and I could make it easier for you. I have now seen that I have not made it any easier for you, and I have made it much more difficult for myself. So I
Mm.
let go. When I let go, I let love fill in instead of that wedge or that piece of suffering that was sitting inside of me. And when I let love fill in, grandmother, I also see that you are more than your suffering.
Yeah.
Okay. So 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 that is how this whole journey of fate and letting go and all those things play out, no?
Wow. That's a beautiful example. Um, and then now coming back to abundance, and where you said that, feeling contentment and feeling gratitude. So just like maybe a one liner or something where what is abundance? Because nowadays we see so much talks around manifestation and wanting this and wanting that, but then also a lot of suffering when you can't grab something. So like how does a person make peace with that, and how does a person actually live an abundant life? I know it's a big question, but
Yeah.
like whatever you think is an easy answer.
Yeah, for me, abundance is contentment, Anisha. It's not anything more than that. Okay, like I said,
Hmm.
contentment begets more content. Why do you need abundance in life? You just want to be happy and you
Content.
want to have everything that you need. Okay, and I have I have seen for myself that I have always had everything at the right time.
Mm.
There won't be things only when I let fear get in. Fear of a future lack get in. I always had enough for the present, but a fear of not having something in the future gets in, and that's when I feel lack of abundance. The more you practice contentment, the more you have everything that you need, because you are connected with your own spirit, which in turn is connected with the absolute spirit who runs the world. So what do you want? What do you want anything more than that?
Yeah. Yeah.
The universe has enough for everybody. And I find my contentment in knowing that I can dip my fingers into that abundance whenever I need it. I don't need to hoard, because that itself is, it's a pain, it's a burden that I have to carry around. Okay, so
Right.
that level of detachment and contentment brings in abundance for me. I really do not have an answer that people can follow as a practice pathway, but
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me,
I think this is good enough. Yeah. For it gives you a lot of clarity as to, what the concept is all about. Yeah. Yeah. And then moving to the last segment, Rudrani, what motivates you as a person? Like, apart from the healing practice that you have, what else do you do in your daily life? What is it that brings you peace and happiness overall as a person?
okay, for me, there are these tenets of yoga, which I I kind of, it's not really the physical practice of it, but then the deeper practices of, we call it the three main branches or three main limbs of yoga that you need to keep on practice. So, which is austerity and self-study, or it is called swadhyaya, okay? And
Mm,
staying absolutely connected with your inner being, inner spirit. So to convert that into Sanskrit, it is tapa, swadhyaya, and Ishvara pranidhana. And Ishvara is nothing else but your deeper self. Okay,
mm,
so being able to be connected with these tenets on a daily basis. So where that
mm,
takes me is that on every day, no weekends, no Sundays, no Saturdays, every single day, I make sure that I read a bit, I learn a bit, I study a bit. So it just keeps me absolutely open in knowing more and more, for one.
mm,
For two, having that humility inside me that I do not know it all. So there is this vast world of knowledge outside, and I can learn from anybody with whom I
mm.
interact. Okay, so that gives kind of a richness to my life. And
Yeah.
that keeps me going, that keeps me motivated. And other than that, I have a small family, and my daughter, when she is happy or seeing her content, seeing
Yeah.
her really enjoying her life, that brings in a lot of happiness to me.
Mm. Yeah.
And we are very
Oh,
deeply connected as mother-daughter. So
yeah. Perfect. And then just I think, like, the last question would be around spreading hope and thinking about, basically the miracles that you've seen in your practice or generally in your life. And maybe few stories that you've seen of transformation, over the years. And if you want to share some of those, that would be great, just for people to know, how powerful these modalities can be.
yeah, so using the I kind of use a combination of all the modalities that I have learned, depending on what the person needs on a particular day, or for customized for their situation in life. So the stories of transformation are the simple understanding for myself that, be it body, be it mind, be it senses, all of these can be healed. Okay.
Oh.
And I have seen people miraculously healing their physical debilitations, and they're coming out of their emotional stuckness. And sometimes, many a times, when I go into a session, or when they are and this is not really going to work for my brand, but when they are talking to me, I have no idea what to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it is just one word from the client that will set it rolling. Okay. So
Mm.
the transformation itself happens the moment I leave the picture. I take myself out of it and
Mm.
know for sure that I'm not the one who is doing the healing business here. It is
Mm.
being done by that absolute spirit that holds everything in balance. And this person sitting in front of me is the chosen one. I'm just the voice, just the words, just the mind, all surrendered to that absolute who is healing them. So the transformation becomes so very beautiful when you see that you are just an instrument. Okay. And
Mm.
nothing more. You're just an instrument there allowing these things to flow through you. Some of the stuff that have happened is long-term migraine getting cured.
Yeah.
Okay. And people having these sudden debilitations in their life. They are 38 years old or 40 years old, and suddenly they have this headache or neck pain in the neck that cropped up from somewhere because a movement had to happen in their family system, and they were
Mm.
unconsciously obstructing that movement.
Oh. Mm.
Okay. And then stuff like a child really young picking up a deep shame story from the family system and holding on to themselves, which has become a physical debilitation of them plucking out their own skin and till the time it bleeds.
Wow. Mm.
And just going back and doing a simple 20-minute session on letting go of the shame that does not belong to them kind of stopped them from doing that, and their skin healed. Okay.
Mm.
A child who has held in his tears for as long as 35 years because he was always the peacemaker between his parents, and he's never cried in his life. So in a session where you are taking him back, he just sits and cries for an hour, and that heals his flu symptoms, which is there throughout the year. Okay. And
Wow.
the deeper connections here are also coming from the practice of yoga. As to know, this is the element that is operational here, the water element. What does that connect to emotionally? And using all these pathways, the wormholes to reach that point and help them release. And you see that one session is all it takes. 20 minutes is all it takes for them to find that relief.
Wow.
Okay, so those are some of the transformation stories at physical level. When it comes to mind or mental debilitations that people go through, um, the feeling of inadequacy that people come
Mm.
with, I'm not enough, or, I am the one who is, I'm always guilty. The person who like throws guilt at themselves for all kinds of situation, including things like a lockdown during COVID, and they had to sit at home and work from home, and then whatever else happened in the life, but then holding themselves guilty for it.
Mm.
The guilt, how it has flown down from their family system, where guilt was the central theme, and letting go of that guilt and finding that freedom within themselves. So those are some of the shareable transformation journeys that
Yeah.
that just comes up to me when I'm talking to you.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I mean, these are the ones that are shareable. These are just so profound, and I'm sure it inspires a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, I think I can keep talking about so many things, Rudrāni. We'll probably have to do a few more, shows with you just to get into the details of the plethora of knowledge you have. But yeah, I think this time we covered a bit, about your work, and I think everything is so transformational and so deep for people to understand, the importance of all of this. So yeah, any parting thoughts you have?
Parting thought, the only one that I want to send out to everybody is that you do not need to seek anything outside in terms of answers. The answers lie within you. Get
Hmm.
someone who can ask you the right questions so that you can go in and find that answers. Soul retrieval is the work that you do. I only stand outside and hold your hand. So know that the power lies with you and within you.
Wow, golden words. Yes.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Rudhrani. And thank you, everyone. We'll probably get back Rudhrani on a show with another important and very deep spiritual topic. But till then, thank you and bye.
Bye. Take care.